Thank you, Camille. Up next, we have Shrey Jain, who is an applied scientist in Microsoft Research Special Projects and co-founder of the Plural Technology Collaboratory at Microsoft Research. Shrey's research is focused on defending against threats to human communication and information integrity from AI. And Shadi, you'll be next.
Thank you, Connor. So today I'll be focusing my talk on the role that AI has on democracy's digital identity crisis, and I'll try to define what that crisis is. This is joint work with Connor Spelsey, Samuel Vance-Joy, and Scott Moore. So there's a lot of claims that are being made regarding what exactly AI's threat is to democratic systems, but few are very precise to what exactly those threats are. It's existential, it's short-term harm, the election is going to collapse. Like, what does it exactly mean, and how is it manifesting today and in the upcoming year leading up to the US election? We're starting to see three key areas of interference. One is public commentary, where people have a lack of understanding as to what public opinion actually is because we don't know who that public is. Or legislators or senators receiving emails and letters and not having confidence that it's from the individual claiming to be in the state that they belong to. And finally, any participatory town hall where people are trying to surface concerns digitally, how do we have confidence that those people are in fact the people that they're claiming to be? And again, these are not just speculative harms. Like the Brookings Institute has done this really interesting study where they sent out 30,000 emails to 7,000 state legislators, 50% of which could not detect whether it was, of which 50% thought it was an AI and 50% thought they were written by students. And clearly there's something here where if legislators don't have confidence in what public opinion is, how can they put forward what they should be recommending and putting forth to, for that given population? And again, these are just one example of a study. You're seeing many different claims, and you'll see continued leading up to this US election next fall of what we imagine will be various different interferences that AI has to those three different areas of threat. The reason why I'm particularly interested in this problem is over the next 14 months, it's one of the most condensed period of elections in the world, where 80% of democratic countries have some type of federal or supranational election. And it's one of the most condensed periods of time with also the ability to interfere with AI, meaning that the room for mitigation and opportunity to meaningfully mitigate those threats is also really high. And so what we've been working on is what is the role that identity plays in that sphere. So just to be very clear, an identity attestation are verifiable claims. It can be on any form of primitive, verifiable credentials, soul-bound tokens, whatever that may be, from a known trusted issuer to a receiver. And they are critical for maintaining trust in the information commons. The goal of an identity attestation or an identity system is to basically establish confidence in the who of communication. So communication or context is characterized by the who, the why, the what, the when, the how. The identity focuses on the who. There's different types of attestations that you may see today. It might look like an attestation from the California state government regarding your ability to operate a motorized vehicle and what kind of motorized vehicle and the restrictions that may have, and an attestation from Gitcoin that you participated in the last funding round, or the fact that you pay $8 a month for X. These are all examples of attestations that come from different organizations, collectives. The way we talk about this work in our paper is there's two layers of centralization within these attestations. There's the technological centralization layer and the governance layer. So the technology underpinning that attestation could be fully centralized. So a government may manage the database, who operates it, like how the permissions recovery is operated for that given identity attestation. Then there's the governance side. Who manages and decides what the recovery process is, who issues the identity, who stores it, and all of that aspect of it. And so there's different types of examples of identity attestations that we believe exist today that fall on different sides of these spectrums. As an example, Aadhaar. Aadhaar is the Indian National Identity Protocol. It's a biometric identity that India has had for the past 4 years where you scan your iris. It may sound similar to what's now being fed in the news with WorldCoin or Apple ID. This has been around for years in India, that is technologically centralized and also centrally managed. And it has had various different inputs and perceptions from the public as to its efficacy and the repercussions it's had, but this is one example of an attestation system. Oh, some of my slides are all gone. Okay, I'm going to just talk over the rest of my slides. I guess the other examples we talk about in the paper are where things like federated identities, WorldCoin, or decentralized attestation services like Ethereum attestation service fall within this spectrum. And the point that we're trying to make is that the way in which you authenticate an individual should be contextual to the space that we're communicating within. So if I'm entering a group chat with a bunch of friends, maybe proving the humanity attestation from WorldCoin is not what I need, but I might just want to prove some attestation regarding, did we meet yesterday for lunch? And there's different ways in which you can practically, generate these attestations, or, is it actual that we're going to be attesting to in-person interactions every time we go somewhere? Well, in the Ethereum ecosystem, there is a proof of attendance protocol that actually is made to facilitate that. And so the short is that different groups of people might hold legitimacy to a given claim differently. So if you don't trust the national government as a form of truth for identity, then maybe you won't use that attestation for your authentication system, and you would use something differently. And the point of what we talk about is that we should be using an intersection of social identities as a way to authenticate, and the way that you determine the set of those social intersections should be governed by the community that is giving access to some resource, whether it be a communication channel or an actual resource. We have various different policy recommendations that I might not get word for word right, but at a high level, we think the first thing is like funding the experimentation of these different attestations is critical. Not just funding standards bodies, but also funding the experimentation. So how do I get access to a language model today? I get access through it by either having a pro subscription or basically a Gmail account or some type of username with OpenAI. With Google, what they're trying now is saying, if you want access to our medical model, prove that you're a clinician. So what are other forms of attestations that we may want to see? If I'm a student in California, prove that I'm a student in California to get access to the education model whose parameters and risks and biases were defined by the California state, versus the Florida state might have a very different identity attestation system, whose also alignment and the way that that model speaks to students may or may not be different, as you see today with differing education systems across states. And these, again, what attestation you show, what trust you put in those attestations will be governed by the context that's using it. And it sounds impractical, but as digital identities become more prominent in the way that we interact, we think this is the ways in which we will start to authenticate. And so, yeah, I'll pause there. I'll leave it for questions.